What's happening, y'all? We in the building. Word up. Post-election night. Alright. Yo. I'm just warming y'all up, man. We're gonna start the show soon. You know? While you're here, y'all could be control room or play control room. Tell me how I'm sounding. If you hear me good, give me the thumbs up. Word up. Alright, alright, alright. DPM, what up? Good to see you in the building, brother. Always a pleasure. Mohammed, what's good? Good to see you in the building. Word up. Shaka Zaya, what's good? Good to see you in the building, brother. Welcome. Yeah. Yup. Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Pay Us No Mind. And today, we're talking about Universal Music Group getting sued or suing, right? Tunecore, or the parent company of Tunecore, Believe Digital. So Universal Music Group is suing Tunecore's parent company for $500 million. That's the story here. Now, for those that don't know how this go, I run my mouth about the topic at hand for 10 to 15 minutes or whatever have you. Then we get into the live chat. You guys can bring up any topic you want and we could talk about it or whatever have you, right? Whatever questions, anything like that, man. If you want to support the channel, you can through super chats and becoming members or whatever, right? All of that is welcome. There's links to products and services and discounts to products and services in the description box below. There is also links to the Pay Us No Mind platform, which I'm going to run through later, some changes that we've made, things of that nature. But let's get to the topic here. This whole thing with Tunecore, which is kind of crazy, man, right? So let's see. Let me get it up here. Ba-ba-dee. Elmo's World. Where's this stuff? Hold on, y'all. I got you. All right. Hold on, y'all. Because it's always something. 1 minute. As I pull this thing in, man. Because I don't know what happened. At first, I had already set it up. And then when I went to grab it, it disappeared. Word up. But it's all good. Stupid juice. Let's change this. Hold on. So I hope everybody is coping, right, after this election, which if anybody want to vent about, we can get into that later. But yeah, here's the news, you know? Oh, so you got Universal Music Group or Universal Music accuses rival of rampant piracy via knockoff tracks by Kendrick Lamar and Lady Gaga. Like you see how they try to play with the spelling. So they're basically saying that people are manipulating the names of celebrity artists and uploading releases to these platforms. So they're saying Universal Music Group sued the startup distributor Believe for $500 million on Monday, alleging the rival firm has engaged in rampant piracy of its most famous artists. In a complaint filed in federal court in New York, UMG alleged that Believe has distributed tracks by fake artists like Kendrick Lamar, spelled with 2 A's, and Rihanna, or however you pronounce that, right? It's supposed to be a knockoff of Rihanna's name and a knockoff of Lady Gaga's name, effectively like the Canal Street of music artists, which are simply sped up versions of the real artist's songs. So they're speeding them up to try to effectively get past the Content ID systems that they have set up with the audio fingerprinting. Universal Music Group alleges that Believe's business model is predicated on pirating copyrighted works, including songs by Ariana Grande, Billie Eilish, Elton John, The Rolling Stone, and many others. Believe's client list is overrun with fraudulent artists and pirate record labels who rely on Believe and its distribution network to see infringing copies of popular sound recordings throughout the digital music ecosystem. The lawsuit states, while Believe is fully aware that its business model is fueled by rampant piracy, it has eschewed basic measures to prevent copyright violations and turned a blind eye to the fact that its music catalog was rife with copyright infringing sound recordings. Yeah. So that's what they're alleging, man. Now, you look at something like that and you say, okay, what are the ramifications? What are the ramifications of that? Because you know they're suing Believe, but for those that don't know, digital distributors have terms and conditions. They have terms of agreement. They have distribution agreements with artists, those things that you agree to when you use their service. And in those agreements, they have clauses. And those clauses state that you indemnify them, which basically means they're not held liable for what you do wrong. So you agree when you upload music that you own 100% of the rights to the music that you're distributing through them. And you have the right to upload that music there. And if you do not have the right, and if you're using music that you don't have permission to use, then they are not responsible for that copyright infringement. You are. Now, Universal Music Group knows that artists that are using Tunecore ain't got no money. So they're like, it's not worth it to sue them. So we're going to come after Tunecore. Now, whether that sticks or not, I don't know, because of the fact that they have that clause there that states that they're not responsible. It's almost like suing YouTube for a video I upload. Like, I am responsible for the videos that I upload, or another YouTuber, or suing Twitter for somebody's tweet or something to that effect. You can't do it. They have laws that basically make them unable to be held liable for what the people post to their platforms. Now, people negotiate with them, like how the record companies did with Facebook and stuff like that, to say, hey, you know, can we work something out? Or we'll just keep trying to sue you and we'll have to keep fighting it, playing this dance. But yeah, those are the rules. They're not supposed to be held liable. Now, what makes me kind of weary is, in another article I read about this, they was talking about DistroKid. An artist on DistroKid got sued for copyright infringement. And despite the fact that they also have that clause where they get indemnified, they were required to pay a portion of what they sued that guy for. So, I mean, the thing is, whatever they get sued for, they can sue you for. So if Tunecore or DistroKid gets sued for a whole bunch of money, then they could pass that down to the artist and have a lawsuit against you. Now, when you ain't got no money, it don't make a whole world of sense for them to do something like that. So they just end up getting held liable. And what the ramifications are for something like Tunecore with this dollar amount, $500 million. I mean, I think that's like how much they gross, right? It's like, this could put them out of business. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, this could really put them out of business. And what this does is put other digital distributors on notice, because they could be next. DistroKid, CD Baby, all of these companies could be next. And how it impacts artists using the service is that now they have to kind of like tighten the ranks, you know? So now they have to more intensely police the music that's being uploaded there. Now, we can argue that they should have been doing that in the first place, right? So it's like, why is somebody able to just slightly alter Kendrick Lamar's name and take an actual song of his, speed it up slightly, and upload it to their platform for digital distribution? That shouldn't be something that's allowed to happen. You know, I wouldn't want nobody to be able to do that to me, and you wouldn't want nobody to be able to do that to you. Like, none of us would want that to happen. And as the artist community, we view such behavior as highly deplorable, right? Because we're creators, and that's what we do. We create. We don't steal other people's creations, you know? That's highly frowned upon in artist communities. So it's like, these people aren't artists. These people are scammers, effectively. You know, that's taking what other people create and just like abusing the rules. And the digital distributors are allowing them to do it because they don't care, as long as people can pay $20 a year or whatever they're charging people per year. Now, again, going back to it and looking at it from the standpoint of impact and what happens as a result. So one, like I said again, they have to crack down on the type of music or the releases that are coming through them. But the problem with cracking down on the releases and monitoring what kind of songs are coming through is scale. They are charging $20 a year. So they are not making enough money. And let's be real. You know, when it comes to making enough money, it's not a matter of like them being broke and not having enough money to do it. The companies just have profit margins that they want. You know, with Tunecore in particular, they were a publicly traded company. Now they bought it back, like the CEOs bought it back and they took it private, but they're still a profit-driven company. So they want as much profit as possible. So it's not a matter of whether they can afford it or they can't afford it. It's a matter of the level of, the extent rather, of profit margin that they want. So it's like, whatever the profit margin is, they cannot get that profit margin if they have to pay a support staff to monitor those releases and listen and be like, oh no, this gets flagged, that gets flagged. So they just have like an automated system that they run it through. And if you beat the automated system, then you win, right? If you got a sample that it don't pick up, if you're uploading somebody else's releases that it doesn't pick up, then you're good to go, because they can't or they don't want to pay for a support staff to actually review that music. Now, if they are forced to, where effectively, if they don't do it, they'll get sued into oblivion, then what happens is prices go up, because now they got to compensate for having to do that when, because they can't get the profit margin that they want with doing it at the price point that they currently have. So potentially we could see pretty much all these distributors start to raise their prices. So either A, they're going to have to raise their prices, or B, they're going to have to become more restrictive, where instead of having this open door policy where anybody can pay and anybody can distribute, you're going to see a lot more of them turn to application only, where you got to submit an application and they got to kind of like look into you a bit to make sure like you're like a legitimate artist with legitimate music and you're not going to be uploading nonsense to their platform. So you might see stuff like that. Now, the immediate impact here, we can see, right, is this email that I got from them. I got this email from them. Hold on, let me show you. Yeah, so I got this email from them right after that announcement that they were getting sued. And it could be coincidence, but it could also just be, a reaction to the fact that they're being sued. So this was the email I got from them. And this is about the free plan, that the new artist plan that allows artists to upload releases to social and not do digital distribution, where you can get your music on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and monetize it, but not have to pay anything. And in exchange, they take 20%. So they take 20% of the revenue, but you don't pay anything up front. After they got sued, or that announcement that they got sued, this email came out. And they say, the new artist plan is changing. We're making some changes to the new artist plan and wanted to keep you in the loop. Beginning today, right? Like not even like next week or even tomorrow. Beginning immediately, musicians who sign up for our new artist plan will release up to 3 tracks on any social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So that is a cap. So they're saying, hey, you can only release a maximum of 3 songs on the new artist plan. Then they say you only gain access to standard analytics. So they restricting the level of stats that you gain access to. And they're removing access to customer support for artists on that tier. So they're saying you're restricted to the automated system, which is effectively just the FAQ. So if you're asking any questions outside of what's available in the FAQ, then good luck. So basically, pay. You know, if you're not paying us, then you're not really going to be able to use our service like that. That's effectively what this is. This is a step towards shutting down a new artist plan altogether. You know, like they usually come and they say, hey, we're going to limit it. And then after they limit it, they'll remove it altogether. Because, again, if they're getting cracked down on, where they're being sued for stuff, and now they got to be more diligent toward the releases coming through them, they're passing that buck down. Now they want everybody to pay. So everybody got to pay. That's the first step. And then the second step could be price increases. And it's not just something that is exclusive to Tunecore, because it is something that is or becomes the problem of all of these platforms, because they all have the same problem of scale and not wanting to go through the process of having to vet these releases. It's quantity over quality. Anybody can pay, anybody can use it, you know? And the reality is, that's what made it beautiful. The fact that there were no gatekeepers. There was nobody restricting access. So anybody could upload music and put it up on Spotify. And if things swung in their favor and people started rocking with it, it took off and you blew up. And you could have the unlikeliest of hits that any music person might have listened to and thought, hey, I'm not allowing this to get out there. Radio stations and things of that nature. And I mean, to some effect, man, it's not anything that we have control over. But yeah, it's just like unfortunate that you always have these kinds of abuses. And I mean, I go back all the way back to something like mp3.com back in the days. And the fact that you had all of these artists using that service, and they were, oh man, that was such a great platform, because they used to allow people to sell CDs on demand. And they printed high quality CDs. So effectively somebody could buy one CD and they would print, shrink wrap, you know, I'm talking about high quality inserts, the whole nine, and ship it to that one person, right? So it was like no inventory. And as an artist, you paid zero. So they just split the profit with you, which was beautiful. And they were also the first streaming platform. So they were allowing artists to make money off of getting their music streamed. They were the first ones to do that, to allow artists to profit from streams or for ad revenue. And what happened to mp3.com, which you had great artists like Alanis Morissette invest in, what happened with them was artists started gaming the system. They had automated bots keep hitting the website over and over and over again, making it seem as if they were getting a lot more visits than they were, and advertisers pay for views. So that's effectively fraud. If somebody is just having a bot hit the page, but it's not being viewed by an actual person. So what happened was they ended up paying out to the artist, and then the advertiser would come and say, hey, these weren't real people, going by the time spent on the website. You can see that type of stuff. And then they say, hey, you got to refund us. So they paid the money out to the artist, but then they had to give the money back to the advertisers. And they effectively went bankrupt. And the artists that they were trying to help put them out of business. And I'm not even gonna, that's a stretch. I'm not even gonna call those guys artists. Like I said again, you have artists. You have people like myself and other people that was on there that were artists, creators, making music, sharing music with fans, things of that nature. And then you had the scammers that came and was like, oh, they allowing people to make money off of page visits and just abuse the system and put the company out of business. And we seen it happen with, like, I don't know how things are now, but you used to have like venues and you had the good guys that used to put on talent showcases and open mics, and they try to show love to local talent, and you got people that come through and they say they ain't got it. You know, I don't have the $10 to pay to get in, and they let people get in for free, and then they end up paying to rent the venue for everybody to perform and not making no money because they allowed everybody to come in free trying to look out. And then at the end of the day, they can't afford to continue to do this, to do those shows no more. And everybody loses a place that they could go and get practice and network and, you know, maybe make new fans even. Like, and that's like the system that we have with like music, man. You got people who try to do good stuff, get abused, whatever they were doing, get shut down, and then everybody is out of luck, you know? And that's the thing, man. Unfortunately, we have people who are users, you know, and just say, okay, you know, I'm trying to get mine. I'm going to come into this space and I'm going to get mine. I'm not going to give anything. I'm not going to support. I'm going to just squeeze the life out of this thing. And then once it's gone, I'm going to be like, damn, man, that was hot. You know, you can go there and you could do this and you could do that. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? That used to be a good spot. And then it's like, take no accountability, no responsibility for killing it. You know, so those are things that I found really, really unfortunate, man. And with digital distribution, something that we had that was really good, you know, we find ourselves back there again. We find ourselves back there once again. Word. But it was some announcement made by Spotify. Yeah, here we go. This is it. Let me see if I can pull it up, guys. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. I always got these old wrestling theme songs in my head. Word up. So I just like randomly pop into my head, yo. Word. But give me a minute, y'all. Let me pull this thing up from Spotify, because it's related to a video that I did a while back about a playlist platform that would just add an artist's music without their consent. And it was like a fraudulent playlist. So they were just pumping fake streams without artist consent as a method of promoting their service. So they would add your song in the hopes that you would see it and then be like, oh, I got all of these streams. I got this streaming spike. So now you got a taste of what they could do for you, and then hope that you would turn around and pay for the service to keep it going. And what I said in there was, I was like, basically, that's out of the control of the artist. You can't control whether somebody just randomly puts your song on a playlist and pump your numbers. That's not something you can control. And by telling the artist, hey, it's your responsibility to get your song off the playlist, like, how are you finding out where these people are? These people could be in Sweden, anywhere around the world. You know, all you could do is try to find an email, and maybe they respond to the email, maybe they don't. So for digital distributors and streaming platforms to hold the artists accountable, it was wrong, because they're the ones that have the ability to police those platforms, to remove those playlists and things of that nature. So it should be on them to do something about it. So on the heels of that, we have this. So we heard you introducing our playlist reporter form, a new way for you to tell us If you think your music has been added to a suspicious playlist, scroll for information on what the form is and how to take action if you think you've been added to a playlist that is driving artificial streams. To learn more about artificial streaming, click here, how to report, right? So good news is squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you find your song on some fraudulent playlist, now you can report it to Spotify and not just have your music removed and get banned for something you had no control over. So they say suspicious playlists represent only a small portion of artificial streams, while these sorts of suspicious playlists represent a small minority of total artificial streams. We know how frustrating it can be to have your music placed on them. How to report. Yeah, so, hey man, we talk about it and they took action. So kudos to them for that. It's a beautiful thing to see, man. Now, one thing I wanted to show y'all before we dive into whatever you guys want to talk about is I've added something here, like my website, because I was doing it, I do the reviews of the digital distributors and stuff is always changing and everybody's always asking me, can I compare this company to that company? And I created like a comparison website or comparison section of the website to kind of like make that process easier. So I wanted to show you guys what it's like. So here we got it, right? So it's like here we can just keep adding distributors, but it's like an artist could come here and select any digital distribution company, compare it to anyone. Like we have basically folders. So it's like you got a Muse and then you got a Muse compared to every other distributor. And you got CD Baby and you got CD Baby compared to every other distributor based on our methods. So like everything that I talk about in the videos is in this chart and we have a rating form and you could come here and see, right? And it's a link to it in the description box. So I could come here and I can say, okay, a Muse versus MU bands. And I can see, okay, price, comparison, all of these different things. We have the info boxes here that tell you what these different features rather represent and the details about it, and break down more information about each distributor when you click the eye, and their sections for each feature. So yeah, man, we building. So we got this, and already we had the return on investment calculator that allows artists to basically do the research in regards to seeing how much it would cost to recoup the cost of using a digital distributor. So if you're paying $20 a year, like what kind of activity do you need to recoup that $20 a year? Or whatever the distributor is charging you, what are you gonna need to make that money back? And you can go by a number of albums, a number of years, revenue earned. Now, revenue earned don't impact the main metrics. So you got the price per album, which is how much they charge you for each release, if they charge per release. And then you have an annual fee, and which is how much they charge you per year. And then you got things like streaming gross, which is like the total amount of revenue you would make or you would have to make before they took a percentage of your revenue, if they take a percentage. And then you got sales gross and content ID gross. So all of these things combined are what would total the amount of revenue from the standpoint of the percentage of your revenue that these things typically account for, right? And then you got the total gross return on investment, what you would walk away with if you would have a net positive or a net negative. And then you got how much you would pay in fees, like after all is said and done, how much do you actually pay for that service? And then the revenue earned impacts this line here, profit and loss, like how much profit after you pay these total fees that you walk away with if you made this much money. So that's what we have here. So we have that, and then we have the triple MCs, right? Which is allows artists to strategize from the standpoint of planning. So you could come here and you could select an ad platform and a country and see what type of performance you could get for a particular budget, or how you could get a particular or a designated amount of streams for a particular budget. So if you wanted 1 million streams, what would it take? You know, conversion rate. These are cold leads. These are basically people that aren't aware of you. Warm leads, people that are aware of you. Hot leads, people who like you. You know. Then you got viral impact and what it would take if you were able to get people sharing the music. So you see the kind of what it would take if you were reaching people who were familiar with your music, and you see what it would take if you were reaching people who were unfamiliar with your music. And it would cost you significantly more to advertise to people who are unfamiliar with your music than people who are. Right? Warm leads versus cold leads. And then you go to hot leads and it gets even cheaper, you know, to get 1 million streams. And viral impact, you see how that impacts things. So if for every person that viewed, you got 7 shares, you see the impact of that and how it decreases the price and increases the exposure, you know? So it identifies the shareability of a song, or the impact of the shareability of a song. So these things allow artists to kind of like strategize. And the plan is to further add to this platform where we add things like we add a section comparing digital distributors for music video distribution. We add a section comparing places to get funding. We add a section comparing like direct-to-fan platforms. So we have all of these different things for artists to go through and identify, you know. And right now, you know, it's like it's like you could pay $1 and poke around in there all you want. You could spend a little bit more and buy like long-term passes. You know, I think I'm probably just going to make it like an annual thing where artists pay for the year and then they could just knock themselves out with it and have access to the information whenever they want it, because it's not like it's something I'm going to be updating every month because the information doesn't change that often. But it's stuff that you need access to when you need access to it, which could be this year, next year, whenever have you, next month, you know, so it's just good to have. So that's something that, you know, we're continuing to build on. But yeah, let me tap into the chat room, see who in the building, shout everybody out. If you in here, definitely tap in, show yourself so I can say what's up to you. You know, you are a part of the community. All right. So we know DPM Network was in the building. We got Shakazaya. We got J Dinero IMG. What up? Right? We got DJ World Tour. Was good, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So we're going to see what's up with everybody, man. And again, like I said, if you in the building, tap in. If it's anything, oh, I got this screen up. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, but if there's anything you guys want to bring up, let me know. One thing I'm gonna dive into right quick is something that I saw on Instagram. Yeah, and who is that? DJ World Tour. DJ World Tour, man. Hit me up on IG and I'll set you up with an annual pass. So anybody because right now it's a point system there where you basically like credits, almost like video games, where you buy 10 credits and you can access it like 10 times or whatever. But anybody that just wants like a annual pass, you can hit me up on Instagram and I'll set you up. I go and I create like an annual pass for you and set you up. So y'all can hit me up at Payusnomind on Instagram. I'll post it in the chat. You know, so anybody that want an annual pass, hit me up. And I'll set you up, you know, and you could come in and use it and do what you're trying to do. Word up, raise them up. You're dealing with the crew that go buck, buck, buck. So throw you. Oh, man. Back in the days when I was a teenager. Yeah, so I got these things that I bookmark, right? But yeah.
A lot of messages
about this thing. Jermaine Dupree talk.
Street promotion posts, right? And one of the things I want to say is that what I realize is happening is that human functions against...
Get the audio right. Hold on. Hold on.
I have to disagree with you because the internet is something that we pay for.
Let's try to see if we can reset this, right?
Okay, so look, I got a lot of comments, a lot of messages about my street promotion posts, right? And one of the things I want to say is that what I realize is happening is that human functions against internet functions. Because one of the comments that I saw that came up a lot is that people like the internet killed street promotion, IG, Facebook, digital marketing, blah, blah, blah. And then my brother Clint Sparks said the internet was the new streets. And you my brother, Clint, but I have to disagree with you because the internet is something that we pay for. The internet is something that somebody else will cut off if you don't pay for it. These apps are something that we download to use, but we can delete them and we don't have to have them in our phone at all, right? Digital marketing is the same thing. It's something that somebody has created so that we use, and the more that we use it, the more they get paid. Street promotion, like what I'm saying about these signs and whatever, is your eyes. You cannot wake up in the morning and not use your eyes. You cannot drive down the street and not use your eyes, right? I'll tell y'all real quick about the billboard, right? I was the first nigga in Atlanta to put entertainment company up on a billboard on 85 North, right? Before BMF, I did that shit first, right? And the So Def billboard, and I took it down after 10 years. But after 10 years, people still come up to me and they say, yo, JD, why you take that billboard down? I knew I was in Atlanta when I saw that billboard when I was coming from the airport. I never got nobody telling me they never saw it. Never. People still telling me to this day, why did I take it down? Because they miss seeing it, right? That's the difference with this internet shit. When y'all post shit on the internet, even like this message right now, it's not going to go to everybody. And all of the people that I want to see this, they definitely not going to see it because Instagram has, they have my messages and everybody else's messages suppressed. And they circulated and let it go to how they want it to go. But that's another story.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, the reality of the situation is with him and that whole thing, he was being criticized for going back to old school promotion, which is in-person promotion, right? Billboards, posters, flyers, things of that nature. Now, I don't know why anybody would feel like you shouldn't do these things at all. It's like when it comes to advertising, you are only limited by your budget. It just becomes a matter of what you can afford to do. But you need to do as much as you possibly can do to raise awareness, because that's what it's about. It's about awareness. So it's like the reason why artists advertise online direct to fan or with like basically action-based advertising, where they run a Facebook ad campaign for the purpose of driving people to Spotify, is because they're limited by their budget. They don't have a whole bunch of money, so it's like I need to get bang for my buck. I don't have money to just advertise to just allow people to see my face and name. I got to get something from it, and so I know that I got something from it, right? And if you get somebody to Spotify, then you got something for your money. You got some streams. But the reality is, if you advertise and the ad reaches people, you got something for your money. But you might not feel it. And that's like the difference. But the reality is that depending on where you are advertising and where you're placed, there is a different level of impact connected to it. So we're online, everybody can advertise online. Anybody can boost a post on Facebook or YouTube or whatever have you. So there is zero prestige to advertising online. If somebody runs an ad on television, which by the way you can do now, because Hulu allows you to advertise directly, and Disney in general allows anybody to advertise direct to fan in the same way you do on Facebook through their platform. I have access to it, right? So it's like with me and the clients that I work with, I'm not like a one-trick pony, right? Where it's like, hey, we can advertise on Facebook. It's whatever the client wants to do, whatever their budget extends to. But these platforms, you got Hulu, you got Disney Plus, you got ESPN, you got all of these places that are within the Disney ecosystem, even Hulu Live TV, that you can run ads on. And in the same way that you will run ads on Facebook, where you're paying per activity, like per 1,000 impressions, where you could run those ads for like $100, $200, something like that, right? And the big thing is, if somebody is sitting at home and they are watching TV and they see a commercial with your music, that impacts them far greater than anything they would see online. Because in their head, you got to be somebody to be on TV, because that's just what we associate with the television. That's like how people become local celebrities for walking past the camera when they're doing the news. And it's like, well, what did this person do? They didn't even do anything. They just made googly eyes behind the cameraman, but they were on TV. So it's like TV has a very high level of prestige. Now, when it comes to like direct action, maybe not, right? Like you run an ad on TV, are the people that see an ad on TV gonna jump from TV to going to stream your music on Spotify or going to buy it? Likely not. People are sitting there watching a movie, or they're watching the game or something like that. They're not going to dive and take action. They might, but that's far less likely than having an ad on social media that's optimized for that objective. So on one end, you got actions, right? Where you get the streams and stuff like that. But those things have a limited level of impact, where that person might not recognize your name. They might not feel like you're anybody that is really like worth paying a great deal of attention to. They just might playlist your song and you're just another song in the pack. But seeing a TV ad makes them be like, oh snap. And when you combine the two, like if somebody has your song on a playlist and then that person sees your song advertised on TV, then that changes the way they feel about you and that song. Because now they're like, oh, this guy is somebody. I didn't know he had it like that, right? So TV advertising, billboards, those types of things have impact from the standpoint of how an artist is perceived. So they carry a great level of prestige, and can separate you from the pack. That's like radio. You can get your music on a playlist on Spotify and it just, it reaches people. So it's still discovery, but there's no prestige attached to it, right? Like people don't run around bragging to friends that they got their song added to some random playlist on Spotify. But if somebody got a song played on the radio, that's noteworthy. People say, yo, man, my song was played on whatever radio station, So it's like even coverage and certain blogs and stuff like that. Those things are noteworthy. People have those highlights in their bios and press clippings and stuff like that. So everything isn't always about driving people straight to a stream or driving people straight to a sale. There is a game within the game, and that is the game of awareness, the game of prestige, the game of perception. All of these different things factor into it, and that's why it's like it takes a lot of capital. And where people talk about, how much money it takes to like break a new artist, it's like they're not talking about an amount of money to like drive a certain amount of streams, because the streams, you could get a high amount of streams and the artist still not be broken because nobody know their name and they can't do no shows or nothing like that. So when they're talking about breaking an artist, they're talking about establishing that artist to where that artist got a name that people recognize and they can go and perform and stuff like that. And that takes having the capital to be able to build awareness, And that's why I talked about the ladders method that I have, which is like if anybody wants access to that. But that is a method of effectively building awareness and then driving that awareness to take action where you got access to the audience that you reached and can further engage, which with TV and a lot of the other type of advertising you may not be able to do. But even from the standpoint of everything, you got to be able to connect the dots, right? You got to be able to connect whatever you're doing with TV and radio and online advertising, and all of these things got to be connected to each other, which is usually by demographics and location and interests and stuff like that. And that's where a lot of people don't understand how these things can be effective because they don't connect the dots. People kind of just do everything separate. They run an advertising campaign and they get some exposure like that. They run a billboard campaign and they get some exposure like that. They run online advertising and they get some exposure like that. And then they just hope that it all comes together somehow. But it's like, in reality, you want the same people coming across that stuff, right? You want the same person that sees the TV ad, to see the billboard, to hear the song on socials, right? To add it to their playlist and come across it on the Spotify playlist, because that is what really establishes you with that listener and solidifies you in the mind of that listener. And that's what I try to do. Like when I work with artists and market with artists, provided the budget allows me to do it. But that's the goal. The goal isn't so much to drive a whole bunch of streams. The goal is to infiltrate the mind of the listener and allow that artist the opportunity to convert that listener into a fan, So it's not so much trying to get 5 streams. It's trying to get 5 streams from one listener, right? Can I get this one guy to stream this song 40 times a month? Because if you can get one person to stream your song 40 times a month, then you in business. And when people say, oh, that's a lot, no the hell it's not. People listen to music every day, multiple times a day. Morning drive home from work, you know what I'm saying? Drive to go pick the kids up from school or take them to whatever athletic programs or whatever have you. So it's like working out, all of these different things, multiple times a day. So if you're in somebody's ecosystem, it's getting 40 streams a month is like nothing, The problem is artists aren't in the system, and that's the feedback loop and stuff. But yeah, man, that's a different conversation. Yeah. So let me see what's up, man. So we got Yusuf Hayo and Long Distance Traveler. Oh, man. Wow. That's my guy, man. Good to see you in the building, brother, man. That was a treat, man. Seeing you in here, man. Word. So we got Shaka Zaya. He was talking about what I was talking about earlier. He's like, that wasn't Elmo's world, I heard. Yeah, it was, man. You know, that's what happens when you got kids. DPM Music Distribution says, if we receive any speed up or slower version, we reject it. We reject it rather. We don't deliver to any digital service providers. Yes, so they monitor. And that's what you're supposed to do. So he's a smaller digital distributor, so he's way more flexible, right? And also, you know, that's an option for a lot of artists out there to use smaller digital distributors that can give you one-on-one support because they're not flooded with other artists. Yeah, man. Who else is saying something? Yusef, he says, I don't recommend anyone use Rock Nation distribution. I mean, they don't even provide information on it. So there's not a whole lot of information on their distribution company. You know, they're just basically trying to leverage the name. And I think a lot of these legacy record companies and everything from that era is effectively trying to move into the area of digital distribution for market share. And they're not really trying to work with like every artist. Like they're not trying to say, hey, come and pay to use this service. They're trying to be like boutique distributors that work with artists that are getting significant streams, like basically artists that are in between like a high-end version of Tunecore and something like AWOL or Empire or something to that effect. Like you could get a record deal, but you don't get enough revenue generation where it would be beneficial for a record deal to sign you because their overhead is so big. But you make money where 15% of it could make it worth it to give you like a light level of support, you know? So are they really gonna be going gangbusters for the artists on their platform? Probably not, but they have like an inventory of playlists. They have certain resources and connections that, you know, they could just push you through a system and exacerbate whatever it is you already have to get you a little bit more. Maybe, right? But whatever percentage they taking is guaranteed. So they make sure that they don't lose out as more artists release more music from other record companies. So it's like you got record companies now trying to buy digital distributors for that purpose, where they're trying to compete in market share to make sure that they continue to receive the lion's share of revenue from streaming platforms. And that's what that's really about, man. It's just making sure that they receive the lion's share of revenue. Yusuf says, I can't log into my account for 1 month and their support is dead. I distribute a single and it get delivered to DSPs and then I lost access to my account. I mean, listen, man. Again, I don't know why everybody wants to make things more difficult. It's like just because somebody got a big name don't mean that the service is any good. And I'm not against trying new services, but yeah, you know, you got to just always be aware of what you're dealing with, you know? But yeah, man, I appreciate everybody for tapping in. Again, we got links to products and services we recommend in the description box. We got links to the Lattice method. We got links to the platform where you could go and compare the distributors and do your market research and stuff like that, man. Anybody that want to hit me up can. At Payusnomind on Instagram, at Payusnomind on Twitter, payusnomind@gmail.com if you want to email me. You guys, I hope everybody coping with the election results and nobody losing it. Right? This is Gift signing off. Pay us no mind. Peace, good people. One.